RBC over the last 10 years especially has been a very active participant in the consolidation with regard to us financing a lot of the M&A transactions in subsectors like TV broadcasting, radio broadcasting, and data centers, deploying our balance sheet but also our intellectual capital and industry know-how to put parties together.
Historically, when we've had strong M&A cycles, media and telecommunications companies have been prominent in some of the larger transactions that have occurred.
And of course, once COVID happened, there was a reaction. Deal activity was understandably and appropriately eclipsed by short-term crisis demands regarding supply chains, regarding customers, and of course regarding employees.
Companies were focused much more on cash preservation given the uncertainty that they were facing at that point. And then as they got their arms around the environment and knew that this was something they could operate in, then you started to see a resurgence.
Folks are starting to talk about it more in media, to talk about what it means to execute some of these transactions, and frankly, how you execute it given the financial impact of COVID.
We had an almost shutdown in transactions in the second quarter, but in the second half of the year, we've seen an increase where it's 50% plus increase versus last year in terms of deal volume. And we're certainly seeing the media and telecommunications companies participate in that. And from our pipeline, what we're seeing is that they're going to be even bigger participants going forward.
If you think back about the largest transactions that have happened in recent memories, a lot of them have been in the media and telecom sector, whether it be Disney's recent acquisition of Fox or AT&T acquiring Time Warner. The technological changes in the industry and the way consumers are consuming content differently is really driving this integration of what we call content and distribution.
There's been a race for scale in terms of increasing your reach in terms of number of consumers, but there's also been a race for diversity of channels in terms of reaching the consumer through multiple channels. And it's been kind of interesting to watch that because that's where you're going to get some of the collision between the larger technology companies and the media companies because they're each going into each other's backyards.
And you see a tremendous bifurcation in the media and communications industry. There have been some very strong beneficiaries of recent developments like data center companies. On the other hand, out-of-home entertainment has come under severe pressure and very sudden pressure. And things like theme parks and theaters have faced conditions that no one really could have anticipated and no one has ever really faced.
As I think back of my 25 years in the banking business, I've not remember a time where we've seen this much change in business models like movie theaters and out-of-home entertainment, theme parks, concerts. Do those businesses ever come back? How do they come back? What does that model look like? I think fundamentally these businesses, the business models have changed forever, I think, in those sectors in particular.
We're now starting to see more traditional M&A transactions come back to the forefront, and not simply with parties that might be a little bit more troubled. We actually expect healthier companies to be coming together in larger consolidations.
Sprint and T-Mobile have finally been allowed to merge, which leaves us with three very large US wireless players, as well as an emerging platform in 5G. So the combination of now three huge companies vying for position, coupled with the emergence of a platform that enables new business models, is making for a lot of intellectual ferment within the communications industry.
The question of what is scale is constantly reevaluated. And what was scale 10 years ago is today a niche player. And it's really driving the consolidation. And then you see new entrants get to that level so quickly today. It's having people reevaluate how they consider transactions, and how they can use those strategically to drive their growth.
I think for the very biggest companies, there's a caution right now and a conservatism because of the overall political environment and the possibility that there may be more scrutiny on their operations.
In media and telecom, regulation drives everything, and so it becomes incredibly tricky if those regulations are tightened. It could really change the M&A game in media and telecom especially.
It's not just the transaction approval regulatory phase of the process, but it's also the execution phase to get to the point of announcing a transaction. Clients need to be prepared that it's going to take longer than they've anticipated it being in the past.
The structural changes in media and communications are coming so fast and so intensely that we expect a continuation and even an acceleration of M&A activity for the foreseeable future.